Thank you for being here. My name is Luisa Campos. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Calgary Counselling Centre, and welcome everyone to this Facebook Live. It's great to have you here. In the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Yaashi Nakota Nations, the Métis Nations, Region 3, and all the people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. So today, October 4, marks the beginning of National Depression Screening Day 2021. So we do National Depression Screening Day, NDSD for short, every year. And it's a community initiative that is spearheaded by the Calgary Counselling Centre, but it has the support of many, many different organizations, corporations within Alberta. And the reason we do this is to raise awareness of the importance for everyone to check in with their mental health. And we make it really easy by providing a free and anonymous online self-assessment at areyoufeelingok.com. It takes like 3 minutes to do. It's super easy. And as I said, it's free and anonymous, and it can be a really great, easy, attainable first step for everyone to feel better. We should all be checking in our mental health anyways, but I think now after this really long haul of COVID, we are 19 months into COVID. It has really affected all of us in different ways, but I think it has been affecting all of us. So I think it's really important for us to take 3 minutes out of our day and just check in at areyoufeelingok.com. And if you need help, get help. We know that we all struggle from time to time, but the problem is not that depression is so prevalent. The problem is that less than half of the people who have depression seek help. And there are depression is highly treatable. So there's reliable treatments, but the sooner you get help, the better and faster of the results. And that brings me to who I have with me here today. So we have 3 of our clients. We have Robyn, Sarv, and Alexis. And they are here to share their stories. And we hope that their stories can really inspire some people who may be going through a similar experience as they did. And we hope their stories inspire you to get help. And we also have with us Diana, who is one of our counselors. And she is here. I'll be asking some questions, but she is here if anyone has any questions in relation to counseling and mental health specifically. She has the expertise to answer those questions. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate that. I would also like to thank, before we start with the questions, I'll also like to thank our social media sponsor, the Workland Foundation, for helping us. With their help, we can reach a wider audience and hopefully encourage more people to take the self-assessment. And your support is really going to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. So thank you for doing that. Okay, so thank you again, Sarv, Alexis, and Robyn for being here. And if you wouldn't mind, I would love if you guys could share just a little bit about yourselves, and a little bit about your story. Robyn, do you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. Well, my name's Robyn, of course. I'm a recent university graduate. I'm now working for a communications agency. I work from home, so I have a lot of time with my thoughts. I started at Calgary Counselling Centre last summer following a pretty nasty breakup. I lost myself pretty much in every way, so I felt like it was time to reach out.
Thank you. Sarv?
My name is Sarv, and I'm from Calgary, but I live in Vancouver now. I go to the University of British Columbia. I'm in my second year of biomedical engineering, and I started at the Calgary Counselling Centre in 2018 April, I recall. I worked at the Distress Centre. I volunteered there for a while, and I knew of the Calgary Counselling Centre as a good resource. So I decided to do an intake form, and I was there from April 2018 till December 2020. So I had a pretty good 2.5 years there. And yeah, I was just dealing with depression since childhood, I would say, and thought it was time to seek help. And it was really beneficial. I will always recommend the Calgary Counselling Centre. It helped me a lot.
Thank you, Sarv. Alexis?
Hi, my name's Alexis. I live here in Calgary and was born and raised here. I work as a business intelligence analyst and studied applied mathematics and computer science while I was here at the University of Calgary. I started with the Calgary Counselling Centre in March of 2020. I had been going through a pretty rough stint between some loss in the family. I had also lost my job due to a COVID layoff. And after struggling with mental health pretty much from the time I was a teenager, I realized that I really needed some extra help. And I got a recommendation to the Calgary Counselling Centre from a friend who had said that her experience with the counseling center was really helpful. And she was right.
Love when people give you good recommendations.
Mm-hmm,
So
exactly.
one of the things that I was talking about earlier is that the problem with depression is not that it's so prevalent, but rather the fact that it only lasts or less than those struggling seek help, and it may take a long time for people to seek help. And it sounds to me, I don't know if that was your case too, Robyn, but it sounds to me that for sure from Sarv and Alexis, that was perhaps a bit of your case. You said you were been struggling since you were younger. Can you tell us, what were some of the reasons, maybe your hesitations, if you can think back, of why you didn't seek help before, or what made you finally say, okay, I need to get help? And anyone can start. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I can go. I think one of the main reasons was growing up, I think mental health has now, the stigma around it has been being erased like slowly, like day by day now. And back then, I think I was in grade 9 when I had first considered counseling, and it was such an unknown territory for me, right? Because when we think of our physical health, like if we break a bone, you're comfortable going to the doctor, right? You can easily go to an emergency room. Whereas with mental health, it's so scary because you don't know what's going on, right? Like no one's gonna take an X-ray of my head and be able to be like, hey, like this isn't working here and this is what you need to do. And it's such like scary territory to navigate. And there weren't many resources back in high school because it seemed like, like am I crazy for wanting to go to counseling? Like, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I not normal? Right. So I think one of the scary things was like all of these like preconceived like conceptions I had of counseling due to not being as exposed to it growing up and it not being as normalized as it is today. Because I think mental health has like exponentially been exponentially grown, and people are being more exposed to it, and it's being talked about like so much more. Like when I was 14, we didn't have like Bell Let's Talk Day and stuff like that, right? There was not that much awareness as there is today. So I think that was one of my hesitations, just feeling like extremely like, oh, like kind of like not normal for a while.
Yeah, I can totally hear that. For me, it was more like I felt like, well, it's never been bad enough, I guess. So you mentioned, yeah, like going back to childhood, I definitely recall as early as being like 4 or 5 years old and referring to like anxiety, or what I guess know now as anxiety. At the time was just like a frustration tummy ache, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I would be 3 in the morning and I was like rearranging my room because I didn't know how to deal with it. And it's weird to think now that like, oh, that's what it was that whole time. But like, it's kind of sad that it was that young, and it took until I was, I guess, 27 years old to finally reach out for help. So part of that was just like, I'm fine, I guess. I'm just used to this. This is normal. So maybe I don't need it yet. So I think that was a big part of the reservations on why I didn't get help sooner.
Yeah, definitely that's really relatable. I know in my case, I had done counseling kind of throughout the time that I was in school. But a major barrier for me in reaching out was the cost of access. And that was one thing that really sort of made me want to stick with the Calgary Counselling Centre, because of the way that the compensation scale is sliding based on income. So it means that, depending on what you're going through, there's not necessarily a financial barrier to access. I know for myself, the first couple of times I'd ever reached out for help, it was very limited to what could be offered for free. When I was in between jobs and didn't have health insurance, paying the fee to speak with a professional just was, it just was out of the question, on top of other things needed for daily living. So it was one really nice thing about the counseling center for me was just that, I didn't have a job, but it didn't mean that I couldn't get help. And that for me was a big impetus in reaching out, because I knew that, I wasn't on a time limit to get through things with a counselor within a set number of sessions.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I mean, you guys were young, or you're students, or you're unemployed, and a lot of the times it's in circumstances like that, especially when you need help, but you may not, have the financial in circumstances to be able to pay for a counselor. So I completely agree, and we completely agree at the Calgary Counselling Centre. No one should go without good mental health, and especially when they most need it. So yeah, so that's for those who don't know. Yeah, there's really no barriers. There's no wait list, and there's definitely no financial barriers. And one thing, I think it's your stories are so relatable, because I think you're absolutely right, Sarv. I think the more we talk about mental health, the better and more normalized it became. Because and we can tell you, and Diana would know this too, it is completely normal. If everyone goes through these struggles, no one is immune to this. No one doesn't face challenges in their lives, right? But the more we talk about it, the more the easier it is for people to understand that and seek help, and even name it. Like you were saying, Robyn, I didn't know that what was happening to me was this, right? So putting a name to things is sort of the first step, right, to be able to then seek help. And I don't know if any of you, were, because you mentioned, Alexis, that you had done counseling before coming to the Calgary Counseling Centre. So I don't know if you changed, for instance, counselors, or if you didn't click, because that's another part. Like, some people may have tried counseling before, but they may not have had a good experience. So that may, they may add some hesitation for them to seek counseling again.
Yeah, definitely. In my case, I've never personally experienced a counselor that I didn't have a good experience with. But definitely, like, knowing that the option is there, where if someone just doesn't click with you, and sometimes that's the way things are, like, different people need different things and have different needs. Having that option is really important. But for me, it really was just the time limit of, I have 5 sessions to build a relationship with someone. And after that, if I can't afford it, I don't get to talk to them ever again. And one thing I have liked about the counseling center is that you have the option to continue as long as you need, and also to return if need comes back up again in the future.
Yeah. And that's maybe a good point to make too, because I think everyone has different needs and different, time that they need with a counselor. And sometimes it could be, I think that was your situation, Sarv, where you were there for a long period of time, but sometimes it's different for everyone, right? So sometimes you can be with a counselor for a few sessions and then just kind of maintain, I think, if that's, Diana, correct me if I'm wrong, but if that's sort of the best way to describe it, it's just go when you need it to kind of maintain that a good mental health, right?
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that I liked was because my counselor ended up getting hired by you guys, so thank you. That was a great 2 years for me because she stuck around. And it was like Alexis said, you once you start building that relationship, if you don't have it afterwards, you're kind of like, what do I do now, right? I have invested time, energy, my thoughts, because it's not easy just being vulnerable with a new counselor over and over again, right? It's emotionally draining, not only like financially or like time consuming wise, it's like emotionally draining as well. So I did appreciate the fact that I could stick with the same counselor because I did leave for a while and I came back, which was super easy for me to do because I just had to send a quick email, right? So the accessibility that Calgary Counseling Centre offered was really beneficial.
That's great.
And kind of speaking to that as well, it's, I found even like just when signing up, when you're kind of filling out the form online, you can put in the comments like this is, you can even just brief like this is the kind of counselor that I'm looking for. Like if you're comfortable speaking to a woman or you're more comfortable speaking to a man, you can clarify those things in there, and it makes it easier to mitigate that opportunity to not click with that person because you've kind of almost been match made in a way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it because yeah, it's so, and we know it's so important to click with your counselor because as you said, like you have to be very vulnerable. You have to really feel comfortable sharing and being open with that person. So it's that click is really, really important. Now, you guys also, I think some of you may have done in person remember back in the day before COVID, when we actually were able to see humans live. But anyway, some of you were able to have in-person counseling, and then some of you may only had online counseling. Can you speak to that experience and how you felt?
I've done both. I did in person back in from 2018 to about like March 2020, I would say. I loved it. It was a good like it felt like I took time out of the day to like focus on myself and to work on myself. Plus the space that was created was very like it was a space where I could think and really just like, grow upon my thoughts and just have like that time, that 1 hour slot that I was given to just be able to like think and really just like think my feelings through and situations and stuff like that. I've also done online counseling, which I think was amazing in the sense it was very accessible because you could just go to your laptop, right? You didn't have to worry about that commute to get there and back. So it wasn't very time consuming in the sense. So I actually enjoyed both. There are obviously pros and cons to both, but I yeah, I liked online. It honestly made my life a little bit easier because I didn't have to figure out a way to commute all the way downtown and commute back home since I could just go to my laptop right there. But I also really liked in person, just being able to see my counselor face to face was really it was more like personal, I guess, in person because you have that disconnect when it's through a screen.
Right.
There's something about that disconnect though that's like a little bit comfortable behind your screen. So, I mean, I know for myself, before I ever started counseling, I was like, oh, I don't know if I could ever do online. I feel like I need to be in person. Then, of course, COVID is here, so we had to do online. And now that I've done online, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that's like a comfort zone now, I guess. So maybe moving to in person would be a little bit more difficult. But I found I cry a lot, so it's nice to be, like in my bed when I'm crying instead of having to like hop on a train and go back down, go home like, so I think there's something to be said about the comfort and being vulnerable in your own home instead of in public.
That's a very good point. Yeah. And Alexis, for you?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of both. I did both in person and online, and I liked both. There is something very special about like when you go and see someone in person. Like there is something very comforting about the connection of being in a private room with someone. But there is also something really valuable, I think, in when you're at home, you are in your space. It's your comfortable space. It's it's your private space. And so that can be really comforting, especially when you're being vulnerable with someone new. So I found the transition between the two pretty seamless because I went from being in person to being doing online only due to the pandemic over the course of my couple of sessions. And for me, the transition was really seamless, and that was really helped by just how amazing the staff were and how prepared everybody was and communicative everybody was. It was almost like there was no difference.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I never thought of it, but maybe online, especially for people who may be going through high anxiety, for instance, it may be helpful. I don't know. Diana, what do you think, being a counselor, being on the other side of the screen? What do you have any thoughts, or what have been your experience as a counselor?
Yeah, it's really, really great to hear from the perspective of you three, because this is what we assume, is the case for people transitioning online. And it's nice to hear that it's true. That's some of the things that we talked about in our counseling meetings, right? Is how is this for clients? And, we do think that it probably is more accessible. And we as counselors, like, I notice a shift in a level of comfort in a lot of the clients that I work with, because they are able to just tune in from home. And especially during the pandemic, like, I felt privileged enough that I could still meet with some clients who were not feeling well and had health concerns. And we wouldn't have been able to do that if we were still face to face. That would have meant that they had a canceled meeting and potentially waiting weeks then for the next appointment. So I certainly appreciate how quickly we were able to transition to the online counseling realm.
Yeah, that's a very good point too. If people may not be able to make it to the in-person session. Do any of you did group programs as well as one-on-one? Robyn did. How was that experience? And was it online? I'm assuming it was.
It was online, yeah. I really liked it, actually. I found it was I was doing one-on-ones for like 3 months-ish, like about weekly. And then my counselor was like, I think you would really thrive in a group setting. And she was right. I really enjoyed it, actually. I found it was so much easier to open up when there was more people. I find the one-on-one is a little bit intimidating for me. So I found that being in a group setting, I was able to, when I say something, I know pretty much for a fact there's going to be 1 or 2 other people who are like, yeah, me too. And that's really comforting to know that, like, in that moment, you're not alone. It's not only like you're online and, someone says you're not alone. It's like you are just like looking face to face with a person, knowing that you're not alone. And I think that was really helpful. And as well, opening up to a group of strangers was way easier, I think, than like sitting down with a bunch of friends and being like, hey, this is why I'm sad. So
those are such good points, because I do feel that sometimes it's a lot easier to open up to a group of strangers than it is to people right, already. And you're not alone. Like, that's one term that I hear so often, and I started to wonder, does that actually mean anything for people? Like, what does it actually mean? How are people interpreting that? But being able to, when you hear someone's experience and you are able to say that was exactly, or that was really, I know exactly what you mean. I was there, I was feeling that is a lot more significant, I think, than just, I think that's when the term really gels, right? Really, you can really feel it, the meaning of it, I think.
yeah, exactly. And I found that a group setting, I mean, obviously it's not going to be for everyone. We did have some people who were there the first day and then didn't continue on the rest of the time, and that's okay. That's didn't work for them, and they were able to just go right back to their one-on-one. It's not like, okay, you're out now. They were able to just turn around and be like, okay, this didn't work for me. One-on-one's a better option. So
yeah, and we do encourage clients to do a group program when their counselor sees that that's appropriate for them, because we do know that most of our clients get much better results when they do both. So we do encourage everyone to try it, but of course your counselor will know, right, Diana? Diana, it's just when the counselor knows it's appropriate. Can you guys think of because I think maybe people still have some preconceived ideas of how is this going to help me? How sitting with someone and talking about my problems are going to help me. So can you share with us a little bit of why did counseling help you guys? Was it because you were sharing some of the things? Was it because you were given like tools, or you learned skills? Like what helped?
I can go if that's all right with everyone.
Yeah.
So one of the things that helped me the most was I found a counselor that really worked with me. Like she listened to my needs, like what I needed, how my brain worked, how I interpreted therapy. Because for me, it wasn't more so of like getting help in a way or like being like, "Oh, I wanna be fixed." It was in a way of learning more about myself, right? Because I believe like when we're encountered with like mental health problems, it's our bodies telling us something, right? Like we are feeling upset, we are feeling anxious. Just like if you get physically hurt, your body's telling you like, "I am in pain here, I am in pain here," right? Sometimes like when that pain was in my head, it was like I wanted to listen, and she really helped me like listen to those feelings and just learn, how like what learn more about myself, learn more about like life, I guess, in a sense, because I feel like it always does turn into the bigger picture. For me, it did, especially like when I was just sitting there, and it was just honestly like a huge learning experience because I had learned how to like reframe my thoughts in that sense instead of because it's not that like you don't lay on a couch and you just don't talk about your feelings a lot, right? Like because then that's just you're reiterating events over and over. We really worked on patterns and like behavior patterns and like how to like overcome them, but it was I someone was able to shed a positive light on that, right? Because if I internalize those feelings and thoughts, it's difficult because like that's just me talking back to myself. Whereas if I have an external neutral person to like help me like bounce ideas off of and just give me like a new window to look out of, it's really beneficial because it really helps you change your perspective. And I think that's a lot about what counseling was for me, especially changing your perspective and just how strong of an impact that would have on your day-to-day life if you just like shift perspective, change your thoughts. Because I did a lot of cognitive like behavioral therapy. So I did a lot of CBT and it was extremely beneficial and I'm a strong advocate for it.
Yeah, I'm with Sarv on that. I also did a lot of CBT, and that was a huge thing for me. I was never really good at keeping up habits, but for some reason that was one that I was able to do. I was, every time I had those negative thoughts, I was logging them and trying to reframe how I was thinking, and kind of just started to become a habit. And I don't find that I need to write it down as much anymore. I can kind of just like stop and think about it, and I'm like, why am I thinking like this? Although it is still helpful to write it down. But for me as well, like I gained a lot of tools that also helped with like kind of dissociation. That was a big thing for me, was just kind of I would just like be off into space sometimes for like 8 hours straight for my whole shift basically, and it just like felt like such a waste of time. So she helped me to find ways to break through that and to kind of shake myself out of it in a sense, and like kind of grounding and getting my focus back. So that was really important to me because my work means a lot to me, and not being able to do my best at it was really hard and really took a toll on like my emotions and my self-worth and all that kind of stuff. So it was like a huge cycle essentially, all things just like piling on top of each other. So yeah, really having the tools to do it myself was important. As well, I'm Indigenous, and being able to tap into, I guess, like a spiritual side of this as well. Like Sarah said, is like finding more out about yourself and learning about yourself. Um, my counselor had that, I guess, had some training in that, and so done some classes and some spiritual work. So that was really, I think, instrumental in my healing as well. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Alexis, for you?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to a lot of that. I think, oh man, Those are just such good answers. Yeah, definitely. It's like, it really is like, it's the chance to like work through your problems with someone else. I think like maybe shame or guilt is a part of it too, right? Because there's a lot of like, there's a lot of encouragement of, well, you should reach out, but you always worry, like, am I a burden? Am I a burden to the people that I'm reaching out to? And of course, that's not the case, but you might still internalize that and feel it. And so having a professional that you can talk about that stuff with kind of alleviates that burden a little bit, because that this is someone where this is what they're trained to do, and this is what they're passionate about, and they are going to listen to you, and they do care. And that can be really helpful as well, because especially if you're going through a difficult family situation, or you're going through a rough patch in an interpersonal relationship, it can sometimes be really helpful to have sort of, someone who's outside of the situation, and doesn't necessarily, have a deep investment in that relationship, to help you process your feelings. And I think for me, what was really helpful was just having the opportunity to work through tools with a counselor. I know we've mentioned cognitive behavior therapy a little bit, but I also found that really helpful, because for me, it was always like a struggle of feeling like, it feels like my life is out of control. How do I control the things that, I feel like I don't have a grasp on? And one thing that was really helpful for me was going through exercises with a counselor and learning how to control the things that you can control in your life, and getting the opportunity to practice that kind of in a neutral space, in a non-stressful situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to hear you guys speak, because like, I don't think, at least that wasn't the case for me, but I don't think when we are kids, I don't think we're trained to identify our feelings. And then even if we do identify, to know how to process them, or how to, cope with them. So it's like, how we're supposed to somehow magically learn how to do this, so then people, obviously, when you struggle, and we all do, as we were talking about, like, I think having someone that can, it's almost like giving you some clarity, right? Being able to help you through that. Diana, maybe you can speak, much more articulate about this, because is it about like clarifying things? Is it about giving people the tools so they know how to process, how to better manage the feeling? I mean, it's a variety of things, I'm sure, but maybe if you can tell us a little bit of, from your perspective, what you see that has been most useful for your clients.
Well, I think it really depends on the person. All three of you spoke of cognitive behavioral therapy, and even within that modality, the way that it's delivered depends on what that individual person needs. So, for example, someone may really benefit from learning about the cognitive aspect, or like reframing my thoughts. How do I catch those automatic thoughts, and how do I reframe that? For others, it might be the emotions that they are trying to kind of recognize in their body, being able to label and understand, what does that mean for me, right? That can be kind of the most important aspect for a person, but it could also be the behavior piece, right? It could be a person that's feeling low and would really benefit from some what we call behavioral activation, which means even though you're feeling low, what can you do today to actually get moving, or to kind of start to make that small step towards living the life that you want to be living. So it's so individualized. And I really, we talked about counselor fit, and I think even just within that too, there's the type of therapy that you're doing. I love at our center is we have so many different resources available to us to work with clients based on each individual client's needs, and have that conversation about what it is that you're looking for from counseling, and how can I provide that to you. So
that's awesome. And you talk about the little steps that people can take to feel better, and that's actually a question that I have for you guys. What are some of the things that you still do nowadays that, and it can be anything, any little small thing, but that you really, that helps you feel better if you're feeling down one day?
I can go first on this one.
Yeah.
For me, one thing my counselor pushed for me was to try to do like more of the things that I love. And it's like when you're feeling depressed, those are the hardest things to do, are the things that you love. Um, so found for me was, okay, well, if you're, feeling some type of way, go grab your skateboard and, even just take a rip around the block. Just even just one lap around the block. Maybe you'll start to feel, okay, maybe I'll do another one. Okay, maybe I'll stay up for half an hour. Okay, now I'm feeling better. I'm going to go home. And I found something just as simple as that is just to take 5 minutes to do something you love, and it'll kind of just remind you of how that makes you feel, and kind of helps to push you back into life a little bit. It's hard to make yourself do those things sometimes, but I found that was a really big one for me. As well, we mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy, and like I said, I don't do that as much anymore, but I do keep like a planner, but it's more than just a planner. I take down like my moods for the day, and so I try to note those things and try to see even if there's patterns, and like, okay, I've been really grumpy for the last 6 days. What's going on? That kind of things. And just, I guess, more awareness of how I'm feeling. And I guess, like you were mentioning, just being able to name those feelings. And I think that's a huge one, is just being able to figure out what you're feeling and how to deal with it.
That is, yeah.
Yeah,
like
I definitely agree. For me, it's definitely like making sure that, I make time for the things that make me happy, and, make time for even like the little things, like the accomplishment of like, oh, I made my bed today. Like that's something to celebrate. Or, spending time with friends or with family or with, pets. I love spending time with my pets, and I found that, like, just the companionship, like a healthy companionship relationship really is an incredible mood booster, and it can help keep you motivated to keep practicing the skills that you can build in therapy. And I find that that's the biggest thing, is taking the tool set that you gain from a counselor, or that you gain from counseling, and continuing to practice it, even if it's not necessarily every day, because you might not need it every day, but it's having those little meditative rituals and habits and skills that you build, and using them when you need them.
Yeah. Sarv?
Yeah, for sure. So something that really helps me is I'm a bit of a visual learner, so I clean and organize and just like to restart. So then I can feel like if like everything outside externally from my body is organized, maybe like I can get some restructured organization in my head. It's nice to just reset, take a shower, drink a glass of water, make sure I'm fed, like I've ate food, I'm well rested and stuff like that, just to like take a little bit of time and take care of my body. One thing that I really focused on when I was doing counseling was, I need to nourish my, like, body in order to, like, nourish my brain and mental health. So that was really important for me, like, make my bed. Um, I listened to a lot of music when I was in high school and university, not so much. The only thing that I was listening to was lectures mostly. So it's nice to just, like, go back to, like, just put music on in the house, right? Just to, like, fill the air with some, like, something that I like, and spend time with my family for sure. That's, like, it feels good to spend time with your family, right? Like, especially, like, my mom, we're really close, so it was really nice to, like, be able to spend time with my mom and make me feel better, kinda just ground me back to life. And another thing is, like, a vision board, just to have my goals set up so I could just kinda get back on track, essentially, take out time, take care of myself, and then get back on track.
Yeah. Push the reset button. Well, those are awesome. And thank you guys again so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. And you've shared so many great ideas, and I think your experience as well, I think will resonate with a lot of people, and a lot of those easy steps that people can take. I think you guys gave me some great ideas, even to myself. So I'm like taking notes. I'm gonna start doing that. It's so funny because you're talking about playing music. I'm like, oh my god, yes. Like, when was the last time I did? Why did I do that more often?
Or
Like
even
things that sometimes, yeah.
not even music. Another good one even is like using like sound therapy and like different vibrations and stuff. That was one tip that my counselor gave to me, and something I use at nighttime is even just to kind of help me fall asleep and get out of my head while I'm falling asleep, is just to put on some sort of sounds. There's like anti-anxiety vibration sounds and stuff like that. So I found those are actually surprisingly helpful. You're just sitting in the dark, listening to kind of white noise almost, and it's very relaxing and helps you get out of your head really easily. So even if it's not music, if you're not looking for something like with a melody per se, something that's just sound is really helpful too.
That's a great idea. That's probably why they do that in spas and places like that. I'm gonna be trying that tonight. Well, thank you guys so much. And for anyone viewing the video, please take 3 minutes this week to do the self-assessment at areyoufeelingok.com. And if you need it, please get help. You can get help, obviously, at the Calgary Counselling Centre, but in the results page of the self-assessment, we also put other referrals. And because it's an online assessment, there are referrals that are local, provincial, national, and international. So make sure that if you need, just get help, because everybody needs it. And it's great because it gives you so many great ideas of how to feel better. Why shouldn't we? Everyone can feel better. Everyone should feel better. Anyways, thank you guys so much. Bye.